I have a confession that the highlight of my 4th of July weekend 2020 is making Rice Krispie treats. Yay, COVID.
I mean, we all like Rice Krispie treats.
I've never made them. It's my first time. I
Okay,
know.
well, that's amazing. Okay.
And of course, I went on Pinterest to find the best Rice Krispie treat recipe, so stay tuned. It has a secret ingredient.
We'll talk about it next week. Hi, I'm Sybil Solon. I'm an esthetician and spa owner.
And hi, I'm Alex Ellis. I'm a body nerd and wellness expert, and we are business besties.
And bosses, running your own business, it's hard.
But we're terrible employees, so we're figuring it out.
I've already figured it out, but we promise to share everything we know about what it takes to make 6 figures.
And be brutally honest about what works and what totally sucks.
I'll be honest, a bunch of it really sucks, but let's get started.
Welcome back to Skinfessional. On today's show, we're talking about how to take action even when you're scared.
And why it's really your fear of being judged that's keeping you stuck.
It's not real. It's just your fear. But before we get into all of that, I think we have a very special shout out that we must give to our number one fan.
Our biggest fan in the entire world, Gracelyn Rose.
Woo!
Hi, Gracelyn Rose. Thank you for listening. We love you.
Yes. And actually, to be honest, in addition to Gracelyn Rose, I know she is our number one. But it's been super awesome to hear all of the, messages and voicemails and voice memos that you've shared. And those of you who have listened and have been just like, I would say moved, but that the things that we're talking about have like helped you come up with an idea or lit a fire under your butt or just like brought something into clarity. And so it's so awesome to hear from all of you. So thank you for that too.
Yes. And so keep them coming. We really do appreciate them. It does help us. In fact, like today we just sat and we looked at everyone's questions and what's going on to make this show. So that's how we get these ideas to talk about.
Yeah. And so tell me a little bit more too about how we arrived at this decision and what life is like in the spa world, July 2020.
So this came out because I have been on one of my favorite groups, Esthetician Dumpster Fire. And as well, hey guys, also the fact, I've been on a few other ones, but that's my favorite group right now. Also, I've had a bunch of questions from just estheticians and salon spa owners about the fact of what they're doing next and the fact that they don't know where they're going. And so I've had different questions and they haven't been asked in this way, like, what should I do next? But they've all come about what really the question is I'm afraid and I don't know what to do next. And that's really the question, whether you realize it or not. People who have been asking me questions, the real question is, I'm afraid, I'm living in fear of what to do with myself next.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I can understand that too when it feels like a really big pivot or a really big change or, if this is the only thing you've ever done. Because I think about that sometimes too. Like, well, what if I had to close up shop entirely and just like do something else? And I think that, we do hold a little bit of our identity in what we do,
especially if it's your own business.
Yeah. And so I totally I get that. But with all that being said, I think that more often than not, fear of failing, fear of judgment, fear of just like not knowing an answer is keeping you stuck. And my question to you is, being stuck really all that helpful or productive right now? And maybe productive is not the right word, but is it really helpful?
Right. So if you're a listener to this podcast show, you know that I am closing my business. And this is actually my very last month in business. So or at least in business in Los Angeles at the Soul and Skin Fitness Studio right here in sunny Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I've told people and I've, started announcing to them, hi, I'm, this is my last appointment with you. This is my last month in business here. People are like, oh my God, what are you doing next? And I'm like, I'm not 100% sure, but this is what I'm kind of doing. And this is what I've been up to. And I've been pivoting already. And people are like, aren't you afraid?
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I've been stressed about many things, but fear has not been one of the things that's come to my mind. It's not a fear. That's not something I'm having.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is because, as I always tell people, you can always go back to what you know. I'm always an esthetician. I can always open another business. I can open another spa, but I can't choose to move forward unless I do that.
Yeah. Well, and also, oops, sorry. As far as like plan Bs go, I have always held in my mind, like I can always go get a job somewhere else. It might not be
Mm-hmm.
exactly what I want to do, but like I could go work at my favorite store, Lush. I could go get a job at Target. I could go get a job at a grocery store. I could go work for, any big company doing, social media or marketing. Like I could do any of that because I've been doing it for myself. So even if it doesn't work out, like it's okay. And so I think that's also something to keep in mind is like, this isn't really the leap of faith. It is a little bit of a leap of faith into the unknown, but you can always have a backup plan. Always. It's never like the end of the road.
I just feel like we should be like, into the unknown,
I know.
into the unknown.
Into the unknown. Graceland Rose is like, yes, yes, yes.
So Graceland Rose is a child and amazing, by the way, because you can never start young enough being an entrepreneur.
No.
That is what we've learned. So Thank you for watching and listening to our show. Yeah, well, I think that one of the hardest things I think about not kind of like knowing what you're doing next is that kind of that fear of not having a plan of action. And like, we like to know things. We're like, okay, well, I'm going to 100% do this, and this is what's going to happen next. And I think one of the things with COVID is that we have no idea what's happening next. Like, you can't really make plans. So I am a planner. I'm a grand planner. I'm a general planner. Like, I'm like, this for the next 5 years, this is what's going to happen. Okay. In fact, we have an episode called Fear of Failure where I talk about my most horrible fears is when I have everything planned out and I see like a piece start to fall out and like I watch my dominoes not fall into place and I like have a breakdown. Right. Well, right now I'm sitting around being like, well, there are no plans and you can't really make them because nobody knows what the hell's happening and you can't plan for next week. Like, for example, we just talked about the fact, Alex and I talked about the fact that all of these spas were told that they could open and restaurants were told that they can open and they scrambled. They spent all this money. And then 3 days later, they're like, no, never mind. You can open. So sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
And that could be us. And so for me, I'm just like, once again, we have an episode we talk about keeping everything really lean. Keep it all really lean because we don't know what's going to happen. We have no clues.
And I think too, and I've been preaching this, maybe preaching to the choir now, but having another stream of income that isn't dependent on you seeing people face to face is so important. And maybe that is like a side hustle or something that isn't your darling, so to speak. But do yourself a favor and alleviate some of that stress of just like, oh my God, like how am I going to pay my bills or whatever that is by just having some money coming in regularly. Like, it's amazing. I'm a testament to how much clearer you can think and how much more creatively you can think when you're literally no longer worried about making rent, And so even if that is doing something you don't want to do for the time being so that you can just catch your breath and then decide what's next, then do that. But sitting here not taking action because you're afraid of what will happen if you take action is a waste of energy and time.
Waste of energy and time, guys. So one of the things that I've heard over and over and over and over from people are, I'm so glad that I put up my online store. I'm so glad that, I started selling, those supplements online as a side thing. It's saving my ass right now. I started I took a side job as a holistic online therapist but just like because I wanted something else to do. And it is the best thing I've ever done because it's a way for me to bring in income right now.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard this over and over and over again. I started getting my yoga license and now I'm doing like online yoga classes and it's saving my butt over and over and over again. The same things. So what's saving your ass right now? If you're afraid, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
No. Well, and also as far as fear goes, and Tim Ferriss talks about this, and you can have your thoughts about Tim Ferriss, whatever. He talks about fear and like really putting some context around it. Because the only things like we truly have to fear are things that are going to kill you or make you like lose your home, like lighting your house on fire or something like that. And other than that, like there's a way out of like pretty much any situation. And I realize too that I'm saying this coming from a place as an extremely privileged white woman. Like I get that. But I do think like there's a lot of stuff we're afraid of that we don't actually have to be afraid of. And maybe it is like, oh, I don't know how it's going to work out. But ask yourself, like, what's the worst that can happen if I try it? Like, really, truly, what's the worst that can happen? Because it's probably not all that bad. But sitting here in the mud doing nothing is infinitely worse than not doing something.
Mm-hmm. So this has me thinking with, I just had a conversation with a client today and she said that she was afraid of failing. Mm-hmm. And because I was like, why aren't you doing something? I don't actually think I've talked about this much, but I grew up in a family where I looked around and I realized that the people in my family die very young. And so I made the decision when I was in my 20s that I was going to live my life because as if I was going to die by 65, because I looked around and I'm like, people in my family die by 65. And if they live longer than that, they live very uncomfortably and unhealthy. Like they're just not happy people. And so what if right now you knew that you had 20 years to live? Mm-hmm. How would you be living your life differently? And I asked this to her and she's just like, well, I probably wouldn't be living it in fear. And I was like, okay, so what has you in fear? And she's like, well, I'm afraid of failing. I'm like, what are you going to fail at? What's the worst thing you're going to fail at? And she goes, well, I'll look stupid. And it made me think to myself, oh my God, I look stupid all the time. And I'm like, so what happens if you look stupid? And she goes, people won't like me. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so Alex and I just talked about this because of this. So we got so deep into that, right? So fear of failure, fear of being judged, fear of people not liking you, so many fears on top of each other that actually have nothing to do with reality.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're just fears of other people, but they're not actually like real things. They're fears that other people are putting on you that aren't real. Right.
Well, sometimes they're not even putting them on you. It's like there's a little bit you're totally doing it to yourself, but also like, biologically speaking, like the lizard brain, to be honest, I don't know the exact like brain chemistry and brain science around this, but we are hardwired to be a part of a pack of other humans because there is safety in numbers, right? A solo like dogs, for example, like a lone wolf, like has to be on edge because they're more at risk than if they were in a pack of wolves. So that happens and that's real and that's like your biology, but that doesn't mean you have to really pay attention to it. An exercise in my journal that I've done that was really, really helpful.
Alex's journal.
I love my journal. I had such a great insight today as well. Write down like who are you afraid of judging you? Because chances are it's like one or two people. And to actually like put a face and name to the person you're afraid of being judged by, I mean, I'm just laughing because I'm thinking of the person that I wrote down. And then when I wrote it down, I was like, I literally don't give two shits about what this person thinks. Like, I don't
Yeah,
care at all.
you clearly do, but fuck that person.
Right. Well, no, like my subconscious does. And then when I
Right.
wrote it out, I was like, no, but I don't really. I don't really. And we were talking too about, like, were you popular in high school? And I was like, well, I
Right.
wore pajamas to school and ate lunch in the band room. So, I
Which
mean, I don't.
apparently is apparently cool now, by the way. This is all cool now, but when we were in school, not cool.
It was very uncool. It was very
No,
uncool.
no.
And I had my group of friends and, my best friend, and I had a fantastic time. And I was like deadly afraid of doing or saying a thing that would like get me outcast. But what I've come to learn from 32 years on this planet is that every time you take a risk, whether it's small or big or whatever, you just take action and then you do it again and again and again. Like it doesn't feel the same anymore. It's like when you run a bath and the water's really hot and you like dip your toe and you're like, oh, that's so hot. And then you like dip it again and then you dip it again and then you're able to go in and it's like no big deal. Like fear is the same. How long did you take before you posted your first YouTube video? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was way too long. It had to have been probably 6 to 8 months. And I never posted the first one. It was like the 8th one. So I never posted the very first one because I was like, oh no, that one's not good enough. No way. No way.
Well, it's very interesting. You kept telling me before we started, I don't care what people think. I don't care what people think. The truth comes out.
But I've told you before that because of what I do for a living, I do care what my image is. Like I just told you when we first started. So one of the things I just had somebody say to me today, they're like, hey, I need to get over the fact that I'm not looking good on camera right now because I haven't had to be able to get my hair done and I'm just not feeling I'm just not like feeling my best because of COVID. And I'm like, girl, I understand. I refuse to do any kind of like additional YouTube videos. I'm not doing enough selfies and stuff according to my manager because like I couldn't get my hair done. And so I just had my hair done. Thank you, Vanessa, soon. And I'm like, okay, now I can do all the things.
Right. And then, okay,
so I look like an old lady troll.
I want to know, you guys need to message us back. So I get it. I'm 32. I color my hair by choice. And I also didn't color my hair for like 6 months. Like I went full blonde and then I stopped because I did not have the money to get my hair done. So I was like, oh, like it's just like being broke. And you were like, no.
No. Going gray is not the same. You be old looking.
But see, I feel like, I mean, and then we talked about ageism and like, that's a thing. So here's I don't even know. I guess I can't speak to this until I have gray hair.
I'm going to put this up, but I want to hear from anyone out there, salon people, practitioners, anybody who's out there who's listening to this out in the void. By the time you hit 35 or 40 and you start going gray, do you feel uncomfortable not like showing off your gray and not getting colored and being on camera, being in selfies? Are you like, oh, I'm super gray now, it's cool? Or are you like, fuck that, I cannot be showing that business?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know yet.
I know. See, because when I was younger, I'd be like, oh, I don't care. I'm going to go gray. It's going to be fine. And then I actually really started going seriously gray. And I was like, all hells to the no. And my mother just recently, she was like, I'm going to let myself go gray. I'm sick of dyeing my hair. It's not going to happen. That lasted for 6 months. And then saw my mom come back in. And I'm like, so you dyed your hair? She goes, yeah, no way.
That's so funny. My mom did. She went gray and then her stylist was still like doing highlights and a little bit of toner. And I was like, Mom, like I thought the whole point was so that you didn't have to color your hair. Why are you still coloring your hair when it's all gray?
Because natural gray looks like horror. It's dull. It's not even like some people go gray beautifully. Almost no one does. Gray people, when you see like this beautiful gray hair, head of hair, it's toned, it's highlighted. There's all kinds of magic that happens to that to make that gray look good. It's like blonde takes a lot of work too.
What was that?
blonde, it takes a lot of work too. Like when you see really good blonde hair, that took work. Ask a colorist. It takes work.
It needs some purple in there or it goes brassy.
That's what I'm saying. It takes hard work. It takes hard work. But I want to go back to a second too.
Yeah.
The fact that when you were younger, did you have a lot of friends? Were you popular in school? Because I also was not popular. I was super not popular. I wasn't like picked on in the sense that I was bullied and stuff, but I definitely was called names and I didn't have a lot of friends. And I ate lunch pretty much by myself reading a book every single day. And I really wasn't part of any groups or cliques. And I didn't even have like a best friend. Like I was kind of alone. I was a lone wolf. I was kind of a loner. And I was fine with that because like, fuck people. I hated them. Like they were just kind of losers who just didn't get me. And I want to know, do you think that people can become, because you know me, Alex, like I could give two fucks about what people think. Like, yeah. I'm just like, oh,
except apparently you do with appearances. So I'm really confused now.
Well, because of what I do for a living.
Right.
Otherwise, I don't care. I mean, look at, like, I'll wear this.
Like you're wearing a unicorn shirt.
In fact, this morning I'm like, oh, I'm doing the podcast. I probably should put on something. Nah, fuck it. I don't care. I'll put on something nicer that's like has no like pattern on it. And I was like, ah, fuck it, whatever. I don't care. It's gonna have to do.
Yeah. I mean,
but in general, I could
Mickey Mouse one.
Right on. But in general, I could care less what people think. Like, I will march to my own drummer. I'll do my own thing. People tell me to do something, and I'm like, I'm a rebel. And I'll just be like, no, I'm not going to do it that way. And they're like, that's a mistake. I'm like, maybe. And then I'll make my own mistake, and I'll fail at it, and I'll pick myself up and be like, well, I guess I learned that lesson. Or it'll rock, and I did it right, and fuck you in the face. But do you think that, you know, the people who are kind of outcasts, that you become more inured to kind of the slights and the caring of what other people think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because my original question about YouTube videos, like I did take 6 to 8 months. I did post, I think the first one, that's probably not true. I sat on it for like a good couple weeks before I posted it. And now, I'm done probably 300. Like, no big deal, and there is a bit of, I will say, I agree with like appearances, like, oh, I want to make sure I have my uniform on when I'm filming and things like that. But I think the biggest, strongest, most permanent antidote to fear is taking action.
Yeah, doing.
Yeah. And it might feel like that first YouTube video felt like a huge thing, a huge hurdle to overcome. The second, the third, the 100th didn't feel like that big of a deal.
Yeah.
So you just have to like keep doing it. And, like the first, I think even in the scope of this uprising, the first time I posted something on my feed about, George Floyd's death or defunding the police or anything like that, I was just like, oh no, like I went political. And now to just step into that and realize that like, I don't really care about the number of followers that I have. I love all of you, but like, if you leave because you're offended by something I said, then I don't think that like we were a match in the first place. But it has opened the doors to give me permission. It's like that seal's been broken to talk about stuff that I want to talk about that I haven't before because I was afraid, like birth control, which apparently is a third rail topic. Didn't know that until I talked about it on my stories one day. And I got this long message about how I was shaming people and how dare I. But again, every time you get one of those, the next one, you're like, it's a little of that flush of shame that always comes up when somebody calls you out, because then it's like you've stuck your head out of the foxhole, right? And then you just like get over it, or you have a response, or you have your people. I mean, how many times have I sent you like, hey, check this shit out? But like some comment or some message somebody has sent to me, we're able to laugh about it, and then I'm able to just like brush it off. So right. I would definitely say, take action, do the thing. It's not personal ever. And everybody is so tied up in their own shit that they're not really paying attention to yours. Let's just be real.
Right. And also, you have to recall that when people are tied up in their own shit, that sometimes that will blow onto you a bit, but it's not you. It's their own stuff.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's their own stuff. Like, I remember, like, you commented on one of my, somebody, I had posted something on mine, and you're like, that person, they posted like 3 times.
Yes.
And you're like, that person has some stuff to talk about.
Yes. Ooh, I just had this happen to me. So this week, or like a week ago, Kim Kardashian posts on her stories. It's linking to her sister's website, like burn the most amount of calories in the least amount of time. And it's like, Kim.
Oh, I remember this post. Yes.
Yeah. And it's just on my stories. 24 hours, it's disappeared. And I was just like, first of all, this is nonsense. This totally feeds into bullshit diet culture. The science has shown that calories in and to calories out is not how your body works when it comes to losing weight. And stop letting people tell you what you should do with your body and that a quick fix exists. It's nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
The one message I got back, anti that message, was a guy who educated me. I'm using air quotes.
Right. He mansplained to you.
He mansplained about how he watched a YouTube video from a PhD and explained how that actually is true. And I just like, I don't know this person's story. I know what they share on social media because we have been connected professionally for many years. I know that he recently lost a lot of weight and is apparently, cool, really proud of it. That's awesome. But when someone like comes at you, it's because of their own fears, their own biases, their own dumpster fires that don't really have anything to do with you. And I was just like, man, that post wasn't even for you. And yet you had to come and respond. And all the people it was for, like, I got the response of like, oh my gosh, yes, thank you. Yes. And I will say that even as I'm sitting here saying like, don't be afraid, just do it. Don't be afraid. Yeah. I didn't say anything to him.
No, well, you don't, by the way, you don't engage with that because you're just gonna, it's a troll. He's a troll.
He's totally a troll. What I wish I said, but here's also, you take action, baby steps. So I've gotten to the place where I don't react quite so much. There was 1,000% that shame, just like shower, like, whoa. And maybe next time I'll have a response of just like, I'm so sorry. You were incredibly triggered by this post and felt it so necessary to educate me. I hope this was worth your time.
You're so good. I would have just been like, mansplainer. That's it.
Oh, totally.
Mansplainer.
I can so easily sit here and tell anybody like, fuck politeness, forget it. That should have been my confession. I'm not really good at doing it myself.
I know. No, I am. So there you go. And I will get flamed for it all the time. People are like, oh my God, that's really rude. I'm like, and yet I can be.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I own it. See, that's the thing. Once again, own your shit.
Yes.
Own your shit.
Yes.
And just, that's how it is. But don't live in fear of it. So the other thing, so like Alex said, when you get in the tub, right? So you're putting your little foot in, you're like, oh, it burned. And then it didn't. And I didn't mind as much. That's the thing with failing as well. And the more often you do it, the more you just don't notice it because you're just like, I did that and I don't care as much. So the more people like who like give you shit about it, you're like, so that's as good as you got. I've gotten worse than that even. Like, that's nothing. That's like baby shaming.
I know. You're like, oh,
oh, that was so pathetic. On like the scale of stuff that I've heard.
Yeah. Speaking of stuff, I found out today that one of my YouTube videos is on a pervert playlist. That's fun.
Ooh, this is a good one. Apparently her butt, which by the way is very nice.
Thank you.
Is apparently being thought of as very nice by perverts.
Perv-worthy. But I mean, that's the thing too. Now I'm just like, that's funny. But had this happened 10 years ago, I'd be like, oh my God. But
that's right.
The other thing too about, fear of judgment is when you are seeking validation from other people outside of yourself, it is an exhausting, never ending,
I got exhausted.
Like, rat race. I know.
I got exhausted.
Right? Because you keep chasing something that's never actually obtainable. It's impossible.
Right. The only person you should care about what thinks about you is you. And I always say a select set of peers because they keep it real for you.
Yeah.
They keep it super real for you.
Mhm.
Like if Alex comes to me and is like, Sybil, maybe you should rethink that. Sometimes I'm like, okay, well, I thought about it and I still don't agree.
Yeah,
But
that's how
like,
we should do.
I still don't agree. But I'll be like,
no.
but sometimes I'll think about it and be like, but I thought about it. And you know what, Alex, she knows more about this than I do. And so I should really, really rethink that because Alex, this is what she's got.
I have one for you. Remember sulfate shampoo?
Oh, yeah.
You were right.
I know. So we both have the things that we're better at. So Alex, speaking of things that Alex is right about, so I just like went through and I'm putting all of my websites onto one space because Alex fucking knows better.
Oh my God, this is the best news I've ever gotten.
I know. So I'm going through and doing that. I'm starting a fucking group for my people because Alex knows better.
I wish there was a confetti cannon that could rain down upon me.
I know, which is like, but you know what? We have to do it ourselves sometimes.
Yeah. You have to figure it out yourself. Always.
Honestly, sometimes we shouldn't because like right there, we're wrong.
Yes. But you know what? So you're a rebel. If you haven't read Gretchen Rubin's The Four Tendencies, it's a super dry, and it's not super dry, but it's kind of dry, but really fascinating book about personality types based on expectations, internal and external expectations. I'm a questioner, meaning like even for internal expectations, if it makes sense why I should be doing it, easy peasy. I can do it like twice a week, exercise, no problem. It's like, it costs me nothing. But if you just like walked into my space and tell me I should be doing something, I'm going to be like, why? That doesn't make any sense. So I ask a lot of questions, whereas you are 1,000% a rebel. You do whatever the hell you want all the time. So I think both of us have this tendency to listen, like I hear you, but I'm going to ignore you until it makes sense and I want to do it. And then I'm like, oh, it's my idea, even though you know in the back of your head that it was the other person's.
Well, but no, because we both will be like, well, I was told to do this. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. And then they were like, I did it the way you told me to. And you were right. I don't like that you're right, but I totally did it your way.
Okay. Do you like, I really enjoy telling you like, hey, remember this? You were totally right. Because when someone tells me that, it's so satisfying.
I don't really care. I don't actually care. It doesn't bother. Like, I'm just always like, of course, like, cause I know I'm right. I'm like, of course I'm right. Like, I never doubted it. I knew you'd eventually come over to my way. Dude, I never get satisfied. I was like, of course I'm right. You'll eventually get to you'll get there. Don't worry about it. You'll get there.
I clearly
you'll get there.
I need to do some journaling on this because the other day we had a situation in our house in which I was right about something and Anthony wouldn't admit it. And I got so mad. I was just like, why can't you just say I'm right? And now I'm like, So here's another thing I want to say too. Like with any of this fear and things that come up, like anytime you recognize something and you're like, that's less than ideal. Like sit with it, think about it. Like what is coming up for me? Why did I react in that way? Like what story led me to this place? Because when you're able to take a subconscious, just like quick reaction, like that lizard brain reaction, and kind of just like look at it for a minute, pause, then it's easier to not default down that path the next time.
And it's hard to get, these are their triggers, their mindsets that you get into. And we all have them. I tend to have more ones around like anger management. Because I get angry really fast. And I get defensive. I'm like an anger defensive more person. And I don't like to say I'm sorry about anything. I'll just be like, no, I'm super not sorry.
I mean, you know, like, right.
I'm like, I'm super sorry inside, but like, no, never. It takes a lot for me and then I'll come out. But I definitely apologize eventually, but it takes a long time for me to do it. I've gotten better at it over the years. So, but admitting that I'm wrong, that's easier as I've gotten older. Because like, you know what? We're all stupid. We just are. We all make mistakes, but it's the way you grew up. So like, if you weren't like, I wasn't allowed to be wrong when I was a kid. Like you're like, you got into big trouble when you were wrong. So like, it's hard for me to be wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and that's the thing too, of just like, really just like hitting pause and reflecting and thinking about like what stories, what experiences, what yeah, like what they call it, the family of origin have
Right.
led you to this point because you always, always, always have the choice to make another decision.
That's right. So if you are afraid of failing, or if you have a fear of any of this, being judged, feeling stupid, understand that it's probably, as Alex just said, it's a story.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that's from your past. It's something that's being with you. And sometimes it's a simple, listen, as estheticians, we deal with it all the time. I have a client who literally hates her nose. It's a perfectly beautiful, wonderful nose. It's beautiful. She hates it. And when we got down to it, it's because one time a photographer told her that it was ugly on camera. One time it was ugly on camera, and that she was always going to have it photoshopped. Now,
Oh my
I know, right?
God.
Now, mind you, it's a beautiful nose. There's nothing wrong with it. But one time it has stuck with her forever through all of her career, right? And it's a perfectly fine nose, yet it sticks with her. So you just never know.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
right?
it's just, if you can't love and support all of the parts of you, and I've talked about this, I don't know how many weeks ago, but and again, I can never think of the book, but like start with yourself and loving yourself and having confidence from within. Because if you are seeking external validation to tell you that you're good enough or smart enough or business savvy enough, like you'll never reach a point where it's all enough.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to create that for yourself. And I have found that as I am settling into that a little bit more, that my confidence too, right, has increased, that my amount of fucks has inversely decreased, like you have to start with you. And if you're still seeking everything from outside, like you're always going to be fearful of taking the next step.
All right, guys. So you have a journaling homework to do.
Yes.
You know that you need to, if you can't plan your next step, you at least know that there shouldn't be fear in your next step.
Mm-mm.
And if you don't know what your next step is, that's okay. But at least maybe think about it, journal on it, if that's your thing. And if your journaling is not your thing, talk it out with somebody. I'm a talker. Like I talk things out with people. Like I'm like, hey, I need to talk about like what I'm feeling. Like what am I into right now? Like what have I been thinking about? Because once again, we've talked about the fact that it doesn't have to be skincare. It can be. And get a side hustle.
Get a side hustle.
Get a side hustle. If you've learned nothing from all of the last 20 episodes we've done, I think, get a side freaking hustle. All right? Because we do not know how long this is going on. And it doesn't really matter because the new normal is side hustle. Don't puke. It's a side hustle, guys. Find something, and maybe it's like you knit and you sell it on Etsy. Like it could be whatever. Dude, become a barista. I don't care. Like start making fancy boba. I could totally get into that. I'm a very good boba maker. Listen, her man apparently is becoming a master chef of beverages or something.
Oh, the Bev chef.
Yeah, Bev chef.
Oh,
I mean alcoholic beverages
waiting for me in the fridge.
There you go. So find your jam. Find what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Right?
And it doesn't, we talked about this too. Start with why, go back, figure out like, what's your why? What do you actually want to do? What lights you up? Because there is something there already. And maybe, writing it out, talking it out. I also heard of this other technique, and in the last 24 hours, I've heard it like 3 times. Now I'm like, okay, I guess I need to be doing this. Thinking about a question you want to solve before sleep, writing it down, like maybe an hour before you go to sleep, and then your subconscious will like figure it out while you're asleep.
This is new to you? This is a new thing for you?
I mean, I can't say I've ever heard of it before. I've definitely never done it. So now I'm like,
this is how this works. Okay, so your subconscious makes its best choices when you're sleeping and like your deep sleep. And so you can actually do this with anything. So you can ask your subconscious to do things. You can also ask your subconscious to find things. Let's say you've lost something. You're like, hi, I'm looking for such and such. Like, I can't find my keys, or I've lost my mother's necklace. And last time I saw it was, I think here. I'd like to find it. Where did I put it? Right? So you can do this with anything. You are accessing your deep subconscious. Wow. And you can do that with anything. So you could also ask your deep subconscious to help you find things. It's just accessing your mind palace. So if you ever watch Sherlock, your mind palace, you're accessing your mind palace. You probably just don't have a mind palace. You probably have a mind dumpster. So you're just like asking your dumpster to like start rooting around in there.
You're like, Oscar, what's in there?
Like, I don't know what's in there. I have a mind if it's like me, it's just a mind desk of shit somehow, and I don't know where anything is. So I'm like, it's somewhere in there. It's in that file over there, maybe, or I don't know. I keep some stuff over there, and don't move that around too much because it'll fall over. So you're going to access some deep stuff in there and like find some stuff out. You can also find some deep stuff about yourself. So you're like, I would like to know why I'm afraid, or I like to know why I'm afraid of going on to the next. I'd like to know why I'm afraid of being judged about blah, blah, blah. Suddenly you'll have like a dream about it, or you'll wake up
and just have the answer.
And you'll just know. It's the first thing you'll think of. Your subconscious is just giving you the answer.
I had a dream about Oprah last night. I hope that means we're going to meet soon.
You know Oprah's just waiting.
You remember on the paper lanterns? Do you remember what I wrote on mine?
Yes, I know you put it.
Yeah. She's coming. She's waiting.
I'm going to be in Vegas. You can come by. We can do those lanterns now.
Yes.
Super simple.
Yes.
Super simple. If we ever get to do any of this stuff again because of COVID.
If ever allowed to be outside. So we want to know how about this? Send us a message. Tell us what you're actually afraid of.
Yeah. And if it's the spiders, I understand.
Oh my God. I was driving with a spider inside of my vehicle.
Oh my God. I would be like, if you've ever seen the video where like the person's driving and all of a sudden they like the car just like keeps going and they get out and they walk away. That would have been me.
I like looked around and I had a piece of paper on my dash and I was like, thank God. And I grabbed it and I didn't want to smash it. And so I like scooped it and it dropped a spider web and I was able to roll the window. No, it was on the paper. It was on the paper. I stuck the paper. I rolled the window down, put the spider out the window, closed the window, pulled the paper back in without it. So it's outside. I don't care. Anyways, we want to know, what are you really afraid of? Maybe it's spiders. It's okay. Send us a DM or tag us on Instagram at your skin fitness expert for you, at Halafamala for me, and at Skinfessional for the show. Or you can call us.
You can call the box, the Skinfessional box, guys. And actually, you guys have been using it. I'm impressed. 818-473-5277. And if you leave us your name, you might actually get a shout out.
Yeah.
But only if you're like one of our biggest fans, because you have a high bar to come at.
Graceful and Rose set a very high bar.
Oh my gosh. So excited. So guys, until next week,
keep your secrets to yourself.
Unless you're telling us.
Okay, bye.
Bye.